Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Animation Appreciation Podcast. I'm your host, Liliana Stargazer, and today we'll be having a Christmas in July episode, Klaus. For those of you who don't know what Christmas in July is, at the very least back in the 90s, they always had Christmas in July where they would release winter episodes of your favorite films or series specifically for Christmas in July, which they were claiming would help you beat the heat. Let's see if it works. As I said before, we will be covering Klaus. The animator's use of contour lines to show just enough detail. Just so you are aware, contour lines are lines that show the important edges in a drawing, like how the lines on the hand holding the blue letter end and begin to show the planes of the hand, but aren't needed when the fingers aren't together. If you're still confused about them, consider this. If a line is needed to show edges of skin or whatever, against another because they are a similar color, it is a contour line. It's basically used when two surfaces that are the same color need to be differentiated. Or in more realistic drawings, it's used to show a complex edge instead of a smooth line. In figure drawing, we mostly used it to show details, but not too many details, like the folded edges of someone's swimsuit, because that's what they all wore in my class. The models, not the people. In the beginning here, we see our main, Jesper, walking into the shadows while his father and the sergeant are standing in the light to show their divide. Lighting is often used like this, putting a problem or a villain or just a character who's in the wrong in darkness or shadow and their opposites in light. Everyone in this movie has a unique design. Any repeat listeners are fully aware of just how much I love that. It shows love and time taken. At the beginning as well, we also see he is blaming being assigned to Smearensburg on his father, as well as all his misfortunes. If he had taken the academy seriously and actually tried, he'd not be here. He is so selfish and self-absorbed, he blames others for his own misfortunes and never himself. This is how character growth begins with a flawed character with lessons to learn. Also here, we see that Smearenburg's design is actually monochrome and gray. By the end, it actually has more color. Not a lot. It's still dilapidated, but it has more color to it. Also, the sarcasm on the captain. I love the sarcasm on the captain. The landscape shots and the maps to real life shots are well done and lovely. The simple small effect of his breath in the air and on the glass. Small, yet it makes it masterful. The visuals in this film are 3D rendered and cel shaded with refinements made by hand in the shading. They did when you put something in 3D and turn a light on, it's not magically perfect. So some of the lines are a little off and look wrong. Animators go in and can, when they do things like this, and shade those sections by hand. It's a lot of work, but the results, well, this is the results. All of the toys Klaus makes, stunning yet simple wooden toys, all of them physically possible, well animated, painted in 3D, and modeled perfectly. I'm fully aware that Klaus is meant to be this big and intimidating guy at first, and to most, I'm sure he will seem that way. I was raised by a stepdad who's about 6'11", 7 foot, somewhere in there. Big guy, huge, broad shoulders, scary to look at, and the nicest guy, just a big old teddy bear. So yeah, guys who look like Klaus, they don't scare me. They have dad vibes. The idea that his wife uses the wind to guide him and nudge him in a way that no other character ever sees, well done. And a good way to show that she's still with him, but still, not with him. The way that Klaus slowly leans closer, and only slightly to show his interest in the first kid playing with one of his toys, the little frog. Just the way the snow reacts when someone runs a sled through it or walks in it. That low camera angle and the slide through the room when the kid is playing with the little frog, it gives a sense of youth and wonder. So we feel the same joy the child felt in the way it stops on Klaus's face. So we can see him lift his hood and watch, see him come out of his shell in a visual, very, very visual, no one's explaining way. was my elbow. The way that the frog toy brought the little boy and the little girl together, even though they are from separate families. The little boy's cheek stays red after the elderly Ellingbo pinched it. Might have been a crumb. Either way. When he told the kids to go back to school to learn to write, that was mostly selfish, but it was also slightly selfless. Just a little, not really selfless. It was just self-serving, but not entirely selfish, because all you had to do to be selfish was let them go and be like, bye. The way the adults began behaving kinder after the kids started it just goes to show the new generation can change the patterns of the old one. As the movie goes on, that transition I mentioned from gray to more color, it's already happening at the moment when the adults start to change. The color starts to come back. A true selfless act always sparks another. That's right, it does. It also makes the world a slightly better place to live in with each small selfless act. I genuinely love that phrase. And when Klaus said it, that's when we see how selfish our main character is. He can't conceive of real kindness because he doesn't understand it. He has yet to do anything that is truly without self-serving interest at all. Everyone is always out for something, he says. In the transition from Jesper's working with the tools to us seeing Klaus, the place his hopes for his family have been in the corner for a second is a window into Jesper's working, because that is when he finally did something selfless. Granted, it was not Jesper's best work, but Jesper's act of selflessness was because of Klaus's giving away the toys that he held for a family he can't have. So yeah, he's right. Klaus's selfless act sparked another. When Klaus talks about Lydia, his eyes turn red in the whites and become shinier, spilling over with tears. Somebody sat down, determined how red it would be when, and it actually, when the tears start falling, they get a little less red, just a little, because that's actually true. Somebody sat down and made all of that. The difference in Jesper's initial desire to leave and his new sadness at leaving when he talks about Christmas. He found something better than a big house and silk sheets and money. He found home. Even I once used to think I wanted a big house and $1 million. My house is 40 foot by 20. My husband built it with his own 2 hands. And me, my cat, my dog, and my lizard all live here with him. We have enough money to live on, and I found home. And it's better than any millions and any giant house. If I had a big house, I'd feel like I'd just be rattling around like a pea in a box. And you know what? That's what he found. Home. Anytime a character has light coming from behind their ears, whether they are facing us or not, the ears are translucent. For those of you who are not aware, translucent is when something is still solid, but you can start to see colors through it. Transparent or clear is when you can actually see through it to an extent. When his dad shows up, the inverse of the previous moment happens where his dad is in darkness, as well as the carriage representing his riches, while Jesper is in the light. Also, Klaus and the other townspeople who are upset at Jesper are in darkness. When Jesper opens the carriage, we see a distorted image of the carriage decor on the outside through the glass. By default, by the way, that would be crisp or frosted. Someone had to go into the material settings, add texture, decide how that texture would change the image, and create the distortion so it would look like that. Granted, all the boxes in the sleigh are fake toys, but his selfless act of risking his life for the toys shows how he went from a selfish, childish, jerk, who weaponized incompetence to someone who cares and can be selfless and work hard. And that is how you do character development. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you for listening, and once again, always remember, if it's animated, someone absolutely did it on purpose. Thank you again for listening. Have a great night.